As Father Kehoe said, I teach at St. John's University. Actually, Father Kehoe is actually my teacher in the seminary, and so I'm a little conscious that my professor is looking over my shoulder here. But the summer at the university is an exciting time. It's a relaxing time. It's a time of research and writing. It's a time of planning. It's really a wonderful experience being in New York when it's a little bit quieter. But we always long for those days when the students return in September, when the halls are filled with noise and the craziness begins all over again. It's a wonderful experience. During the month of July and August, the university has these weeks of orientation where they invite students and their families to come and to learn more about the university. So they invite some teachers to speak to the students. And I love doing it because I love being in the classroom. But when I meet them, they're these starry-eyed, idealistic individuals with great hopes and great promises before them. It's a wonderful experience to see that. But I also know in their eyes there's great fear, trepidation, and worry. So I invite them to two things. One, I invite them to choose to be a yes person. And then secondly, I invite them to the models that the university has to offer. St. John's University, like Niagara, DePaul, Adamson, and All Hallows College, is unabashedly Catholic and Vincentian. And so when a student comes to us, we speak to them about Vincent de Paul. We speak to them about Jesus Christ without reservation. What's also marvelous about our lives as a university is we have a church that's practically brand new, 10 years old, St. Thomas More Church. And as you walk in the church, on the left-hand side are all the saints and beati of the Vincentian family, but on the right-hand side as you walk in is the Blessed Mother under the patronage of Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal. And so I'll invite students to look at this and to examine this and to choose Mary as their model. Because I think you know, as parents, as grandparents, as those who work with the young, those exemplars, those people, those heroes that they look to sometimes don't last. They don't last because they're media folks who fall very quickly. They're athletic folks who are only in it for the money. As one of my confreres, Jim Dore, likes to say, they're peacocks today and feather dusters tomorrow. So I offer them Mary as a sustainable model, to model their lives after. And today, our shrine has offered us the title of Mary, Mother of the Church. The title Mary, Mother of the Church is a relatively new title to us. You know, in John O'Malley's text on Vatican II, he writes about the business of this Mary, Mother of the Church title. And he says that the Council Fathers wanted so much to have a separate document on Mary. Yet, only in the 5th chapter, the whole chapter of Lumen Gentium, did Mary have her prominent place as Mary, Mother of the Church. St. John Paul II recalls that affectionate memory of Paul VI, who over and over again spoke about Mary, Mother of the Church. We speak about Mary, Mother of the Church as us being the church, and Mary leading us and guiding us as a formidable pattern in our lives. There are 3 stations in her life, Mary's life, that I'd like to offer for us for our reflection. The first is her fiat. She's asked to be the Mother of God. She doesn't hesitate and say, you know, can you get back to me tomorrow? I just need a little bit more information. What's this all about? You know, give me some more data before I make this decision. She didn't do that. She said yes. She said yes and moved on that decision. She put her hand in God and trusted in God, and God would lead her because she had confidence in this God. A friend of mine, Sean, who went through his share of girlfriends and had some ups and downs. And so at 35 declared him, From now on, I am a bachelor, and I will always be a bachelor. I am choosing this single life. I don't need any woman in my life. You can taste the bitterness just even in my recounting of that story, can't you? So this went on for 3 years. And then one day, he's riding the Long Island Railroad, and he sees this beautiful girl sitting across from him. So he calls me and says, I don't know what's going on, but I might have to rephrase my public pronouncement. I said, what do you mean? He says, there's this beautiful girl. But he says, he says, Pat, I'm 30 years old, but I still feel nervous about asking her. I'm even afraid to look at her. I said, what's the worst she can say? Is no. So this went on for a couple of weeks. Finally, he makes the move. 2 years later, they're married. 4 years later, 3 kids later, I say to Sean, I said, how's life? How's life for the confirmed bachelor? He says to me, I took a risk in saying yes. And this has been the hardest thing in my life, this thing called marriage and being a parent. But he says, I am so happy I said yes. Because if I said no, I would be a miserable, bitter thing the rest of my life. My friends, Mary said yes to God's invitation. God invites us in so many ways, in so many instances of our life. How do we respond? Do we call for more data? Do we hesitate? One of the greatest pieces of advice someone gave me early on was, say yes to everything, and then figure out how to do it. That's a piece that we might want to consider. That's what Mary did. She had confidence in this God. The second station is this, is Mary having confidence in God at Cana. There was an awful experience that could have gone tragically wrong, running out of booze at a wedding. And yet Mary had confidence that the bride and the groom were not going to be embarrassed, that God was going to make good and make this situation better. A couple weeks ago, I married one of my former students, 2 students actually, but the one I want to call your attention to. And if you were to walk into this church on this Saturday morning when I had this wedding, you would have thought you were at a funeral. Now, there are a bunch of Irish people. We like to cry a lot. We recognize that. But the church was crying. And I couldn't help it because I'm not good at crying. So a student sits in my office and starts crying. I say, I got a phone call I got to take. I'm not very good with criers. And yet, this church was full of criers. Why? Because this young man had overcome bone cancer. Had overcome bone cancer. You know the prognosis of people who have bone cancer. It's not very favorable. Yet, his parents prayed the novena, day in and day out, and invited others to do the same. And so to see this strapping, muscular young man walking down the aisle with this beautiful, ravishing woman, there was reason to cry. Cries of tears, of joy, and happiness and delight. Because God was there in the midst of difficulty, when things were getting short, when time was running out. And finally, we say to ourselves, I pray to Mary, it doesn't work out. I put petitions in the box, and God doesn't come through. But we have to be open to God's will and where God leads us. I think we recognize that. Because some things are not meant to be. As I'm often told in religious life, if I want something so much, maybe I don't want it and don't need it. I think of the experience of this gentleman at 60 years old who lost his wife. And at 60 years old with 6 kids, said to me, what reason can you offer me about this God of yours? It doesn't make sense. There's a beautiful funeral, a beautiful aftermath, but he was hurting inside. And I said, I have no answers. I said, all I can do is trust. All I can say is trust. And I look at the example of Mary at the cross. To see her beloved son saying, he says, what have I got myself into? My son is being crucified. And yet Mary trusted and that God would not disappoint her. So I just saw this 63-year-old man now, and life is better because God made good and gave him a sense of peace that his wife is okay. My friends, Mary, Mother of the Church, she offers us a pattern of who we can be. It's an invitation for us to say yes. It's an invitation that she held out to the apostles in that upper room, in the Acts of the Apostles, the last mention of Mary in the scriptures. And she invited them as they went forth to model her life, to model their lives on her. My friends, as the world looks to people for sustainable models, we have in Mary, Mother of the Church, a great one.